I'm telling you, I told you offline that this is something I was not prepared to talk to people about even a year ago, because there's a level of consciousness you have to get to in order to even begin to accept that something like that is possible. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's extraordinarily possible. It has begun. Everything happens in a cycle of threes, okay? And we have begun that cycle now. So that means that in the next 3 years, everything is going to be as crazy as it's ever been. And people go, well, yeah, you say that every year. No, take a look at what we said a year or two ago, or 3 or 4 years ago. We were talking about this day coming maybe 100 years from now. Maybe, if somebody was gutsy enough to say it. Now we're saying it's here. It's here. And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to tell people, the clock has started, people. It has started. And we're in the 3-year time period. And that means that all of the things that everything was promised to you is going to happen if you step up and are willing to step into it. Let me ask you before we go on, do you, unless we're already on in some way, do you understand who you are?
No.
Do you have any feeling for it? She talks about an order of priestesses and priests.
Mm-hmm.
That order is here, yes, to restore the divine feminine, but it can only do that through energies of the divine child, and it can only do that with the balance of the divine masculine. In the Knights Templars day, they didn't share this whole story. They called it the Holy Grail. Okay, but there was more to it. This was pieces of the frequencies that you can't see until you get into a state of remembering and accepting. Accepting's a big deal. Okay, that you're in this order of priests and priestesses. These are extraordinarily high level priests and priestesses, man. I mean, they're like way up there. There's nothing beyond them. Okay, because they come from an energy in the angelic realm that is of the highest order. And there is a purpose for all of these frequencies to come in. And so, I mean, this is part of what I was going to talk about today. You carry, and there are others who carry the consciousness of what's called the Christ consciousness. It's a very big consciousness. Okay, it's the one that talks about. It's the one that's been talked about forever. Everybody assumed that it was a man or some specific being. It's not. It's an order of certain beings that are here carrying that energy. It's what ignites the pyramid system, but they don't understand that yet. When I say they, even the ones who are researching this at great length, because this involves an extraordinary level of mystical energy that only the priests and priestesses knew how to do. Your story's in there. Your story is that, okay? And you have to. The first thing that I teach when I teach the way, because I'll talk about some of this too, but what I realize is that I call my teachings the way of the inner child. Okay, it's not the way of the inner child. It's the way as taught by the child, by the inner child. And the way is the teachings that came out of Yeshua, but they were rooted in Egypt. They were rooted way before we had any form of Christianity. And that's a very powerful order. Dude, you are really, if you wanted to, you could step into a space of unimaginable magic. And I suspect that over the next 12 months, it's going to hit you right between the eyes. So, yeah, you go in and tell me, you share with me that song. It's like she just said what I was just telling you.
Yeah. And we're going to link that song for everyone to hear it and really get into that frequency, because I was in Egypt a few months ago with my dear friend Alunya, and it was all about learning these ancient practices and initiations that the priests and the priestesses would go through. And right now I'm looking at you and I'm seeing the Ankh, in your necklace, and when you talked a little bit about Egypt in our first conversation, you said that you had to go to Egypt to figure this out, which was, how do you return home and still play the earthly game at the same time? So I thought it would be a beautiful idea to segue right into that question,
Okay.
regarding where we left things off in our first conversation. And also, I have to say, Franco Romero,
Whoa.
welcome back on Just
What's
Tap
up?
In.
What's
Let's
up?
go. Let's
Let's
go.
go. Let's go, brother. Let's go. I've been saying that for 5 months. Can't believe it's been that long. I mean, really can't believe it's been that long. I'll have to show you some of the artwork that I have on my back because was fully inspired as a result of going there, before going there, during and after. And yeah, if you would have asked me years ago if I was going to do this kind of stuff in terms of having artwork like this, no. But it's just the age in which we're stepping into, brother. I want to make this conversation so practical, but yet so mystical because it's two worlds that are literally playing out right now. And so, what is it that you want to talk about, brother? What is it? What is it that you want to talk about? Because I never know where this is going to go. And that's what I love about it.
I guess I wanted to start off with a personal question with you as well. Is we talked about our magic and the remembrance that we're going through around our magic. What is the latest, greatest synchronicity or synchronicities that you have experienced in your life that have helped you remember the magic within you?
Really? This is how you want to start it off? Without
Yes,
question?
sir.
Oh, man. All right. Where do I start? Um, the biggest thing, and this is, I feel, this really steps into the energies of next year, okay, is the allowing of these sort of inner voices that I've had all my life, but it was the allowing and the honoring of that of that sort of phenomenon or dynamics to integrate with me, to allow myself to listen to it, and hear, actually hear, listen to it, hear. If there's the biggest synchronicity of anything, is here. It's here. And I know people go, yeah, but how do I do that? Or what does that mean? Or blah, 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 or a lot more woo woo and all this. Um, we have experienced everything here, all of it here, up until now. And we're just now remembering that it's here. And there's a lot of science behind what I'm going to say, that there's the brain, our real genuine spiritual mind, if you will, is in this space, and that it emotes. I mean, this is quantifiable. It emotes more electromagnetic energy than anywhere. So the synchronicities that I've had have been more of the type of which I've been synchronizing with things inwardly and connecting to these ideas, these notions, these topics of or frequencies of the divine feminine, the divine child, and divine masculine, the Trinity. I mean, all of the stuff that gets into, like we were just talking before we got on, that we're stepping into a series or a stage in our world that is so extraordinarily mystical, that there are just countless synchronicities. I mean, dude, I could go into so much, going to Egypt and the synchronicities that happen there, going to Europe, the synchronicities that happen there, the synchronicities I have to ancient worlds that I have no idea why. I mean, I know why. They're, I was telling you off air, the Tupis in South America and the Mayans in Central America. I mean, the biggest synchronicity is when I started to sync up with everything that I was being told inwardly, even if it was the most tiniest little thing that was saying, hey, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't make sense. Oh, and I had a really big epiphany about making sense. Okay. All right. You're going to go, yo, what took you so long to get this one? But I'm telling you, I didn't get it right away. Okay. It makes sense. When I one day I was saying, yeah, it makes sense. If something makes sense, you follow it. You follow it, because this day and age, when it makes sense, it's really coming from here. Okay. And if it isn't, it's coming from a collaboration here. If it makes sense, it's because it's tapping into your sixth senses, into this unknown space that you go into and you don't even know it. When it makes sense, it's because it's tapping into a remembrance of something that you are. And dude, I mean, I mean, you got to remember, I had an NDE when I was 6 months old. I mean, I've been syncing with so many things, but you don't have to have an NDE, and that's the thing that we're walking into or stepping into, is that we don't have to have those anymore to have synchronicities. I don't know if I answered it as specifically as you like, because people are going to have an extraordinary, and are already having extraordinary synchronicities with their past lives, with their lives in between lives, with remembrances of sacred geometrical things and civilizations and paranormal, and they're syncing up in so many different ways that, and I would have to say that all of those things have been part of my whole quest, because I've synced up with all of them in one way, shape, or form. Did I give you something there? Because I could try to keep.
You did.
I could try going further with you on this one, but you're going to have to hold my hand and kind of tell me where you want to go with it. So yeah, the synchronicities are insane now, for all of us. For all of us, I got to believe, for everyone who's listening to your show, they listen to your show because they're hungry for something else that they're going to sync with. Somebody else who's going to say something that goes, I was feeling into that. I saw that. I remember that. Blah blah. You know. It's why you do what you do, why you provide the people that you provide, is so that they can sink in with some aspect of their remembering. But what are they remembering? Well, we can get into that as we get further on in this conversation. But okay, I'm going to leave it there. If there's something else you want to follow up with, I'll get a little bit sharper. I'll go, come on, let's do it. All right, bring me there. All right,
Let's go.
Let's go.
It was interesting because you sort of threw a curveball at me right when we jumped on the call that I wasn't expecting to go into. But now that you brought it up about speaking about magic, speaking about remembrance, you described to me, and I'd love to go even deeper in this, about these order of beings that are stepping into the planet right now to assist in the remembrance of humanity. And in this next stage of the game of the evolution of consciousness, what have you remembered around this order in specific that is coming back?
Oh, it's why I wanted to start. This is why I wanted to start 2025 with this narrative, because there are a lot of people that are talking about a lot of stuff that will or will not happen in 2025, and there's a lot of surface stuff that's really good. It's really good, but it's what's happening underneath, and this is where I want to be mindful of the people that are listening, because I want to be able to give them a sense of how to apply this, in a sense, to their world. Because for a lot of people, sometimes they'll hear this stuff and it either goes in one ear and out the other, or they feel like they're not really being spoken to in a way that's going to be relevant to them, or even this one's even bigger. Oh, okay, so you guys are talking and feeling into this stuff, but where am I in all of this? You know, what's my point? What's my purpose in all this? Because as far as I know, I'm not there yet. I'm not sure if I can get there yet. But as I will tell people, and I've told people all the time, if they're listening to you, they're already in that stage of remembering. So what was your question again?
Tell us about the order of the beings that you described to me.
All right. So this is what I'm going to start with. Once upon a time. Okay. People love once upon a time stories. All right. Because it gets into a utopic, dystopic type of field, childlike kind of energy field. And this is why the way that I teach is through the child. So once upon a time, long ago, way back, thousands thousands and thousands of years ago, there was a school created, this one, right? And it had a specific function, a purpose. There were so many different things to explore, contrast and duality and remembering, and how to use them, how to use these to create a new science, a new consciousness. Once upon a time, those energies kind of existed all over the planet, and they existed all over the planet because there were a lot of, well, let's just call it what it is. There were a lot of visitors here from all sorts of places outside of this world. Some will call those the Galactics, or I call them the Dimensionals. Others will call them the Archangels, and they are actually different frequencies. So what I'm saying is that they're not all the same thing we're talking about. Once upon a time, there was in part of, now this kind of gets into simulation theory, gaming, okay? We have to start there. We have to start there, okay? This, Emilio, is a game, all right? And I keep stressing this, and I'll keep shouting it from the top of the highest mountains. This is a game, all right? It's not meant to be metaphorical. It's not meant to be metaphorical. It's a game that has a tremendous sophistication around it. It has created so many different beautiful narratives, levels, if you would, of remembering that allow you to step into different pieces of the game so that it might connect with you. So it's spiritually speaking. And at the highest level of this game, the part that everybody has to kind of cross through in order to have this full experience of an awakening or remembering or enlightenment, is the mystical side. And this is something that I was really hesitant to share in stories and interviews because there's so much around it that is misleading, that I didn't want people, and when people hear mysticism, they like tune out sometimes because it gets into the woo-woo stuff. But I am telling you that it has to go in that space. It has to go in that space because what is woo-woo to us is to us, meaning the people who are listening in 3D sort of vibration filters, is the magic of who we are as creators, as the divine. This is what we do. This is not something that you see in movies and it's dystopian, utopian, and you just sit there. There's a reason why those movies are created. There's a reason why many of us feel into those movies and go, something about these movies make me feel a certain way. But I don't know what, because if I even dare to believe that I am capable of being somebody that's actually here to do something to change the planet in a way that only those people out there can do, then you start to disconnect from the storyline of your storyline, your potential storyline of who you are. In the mystical realms, when I say that, I mean the angelic realms, in the realms of the spaces where this world was created, okay? There were angelics. There still are. And those come in the form of a lot of stories, but they also come in the story from, if anybody goes deep enough, they don't even have to go too deep. They'll know that they some of them, if not all of them, in a way have been sort of described in the world of seraphims, if you're familiar with that. Okay, they're an extraordinarily high level of consciousness. They have the keys to the Akashic records. They know and experience everything for what it is, as if they were literally the living embodiments of the thing we would call God. Okay, they were responsible for creating this world. Their responsibilities are to create experiences for us as the collective, to experience new things that will allow us to grow, because that's what it is. We are light beings that desire to grow, to experience ourselves in so many different ways. I'm not telling you anything that you haven't already pieced the puzzle together in some other way, and other people have too. But what I'm telling you is that this game has a certain narrative that you're running through. And up until now, up until this Earth School, nobody has ever gotten this far. No one has gotten this far. Other schools like Lemuria and Atlantis and others got closer and closer. And here's where, again, people might start disconnecting. What does this have to do with anything? It has to do with everything, but you have to look at it from a higher level. And in that higher level, you will see a much clearer vision, or at least the narrative seems to make more sense, where you can start to connect the dots. These beings that I'm referring to, all carry an energetic frequency of actually three types of higher band frequencies. One is the divine feminine. Okay, the other one I will refer to it as the Christ consciousness. Okay, which is can also be known as the Buddha consciousness and other things. Okay, and the other one is the God consciousness. And those are the three primary frequencies. And within those, there are other frequencies that make up, for instance, the divine feminine. So what I teach, or what I try to show people, actually I really do deep dives into this, is that the divine feminine has at least 50 frequencies. Okay, at least. And within those frequencies, you must understand what they are. They're not difficult. And you must not only understand what they are, and here's where the disconnect falls. Most people get that there's a divine feminine. Most people can make the connection of the divine feminine inside storylines, so like ancient Egypt, or the Persians, or the Sumerians, or whatever. Okay, they can get that. They get that at a surface level, but they don't get how those frequencies work within themselves in order to activate codes. So that all of a sudden they could be looking at a wall in ancient Egypt, and they see writings on the wall, and the wall will show them something even further. And it may be something they've already seen, but they can see it even deeper, like messages within messages within messages. So what does this have to do with this order that I've been telling you about? This order, and these are beings. I got to stress this. These are beings, meaning that there are aspects of the divine that have separated itself out into different humans. Okay? All right? So I'm really trying to be very, very mindful of this. This energy captures 13 different frequencies of the divine feminine. 13 of them. Okay? And if you want, now I just told you there are 50 frequencies. Yes, there are different frequencies of the sort of, we'll call them the characteristics of the divine feminine, but these are 13 clump frequencies. Okay, these beings are here now. They're here, and what they're doing is they're going around the world, and they're doing their thing. They're laying crystals, and they're bringing vortices together, and they're activating grid systems all over the planet. And nobody knows about them. They're not here basically interviewing everywhere, talking about them. They're doing their job. And here's the interesting thing. They're not high priests and priestesses. They are in their angelic sense. But these are people that are one day waking up. They're just waking up one day, and they're going about their lives doing whatever they do. And all of a sudden they're feeling called to go all over the world. They're laying crystals down, and they understand the dynamic of those crystals, and they understand how they relate to them. They talk about how they themselves have this genetic coding, and how they're supposed to integrate that genetic coding with the crystals in order to lay them. There are people, Emilio, right now, that are laying crystals in altars of churches, in caves, underwater, you name it, up on the top of mountains. They're doing it because they're activating the grid system so that it can become crystalline. Okay, and that's the next order of energy that's coming in that will allow us as humanity, for those who are here to remember, to ignite a new awareness in ourselves, that it goes way beyond just what we remember. It goes into mysticism and magic. It literally goes into those spaces that we once were told were just part of an imagination that we had and didn't exist. It is now the golden age, which is preceded just for a short period of time by the age of miracles. Okay, is that time where we will start to remember how to integrate into energies that, as I told you before, if not understood, could get you into some trouble, because it's called black magic. But it is not that. It is the magic that all of the great teachers once carried on this planet. Yeshua, Black Elk, the White Buffalo Woman, Hathor, you name them, okay? And this is now here. That energy of beings are here, and they have been here for a little while now, and they're going to continue to do what they're supposed to be doing, because this time in human history, what we're stepping into is going to be really intense, really, really intense. And they're here to make sure that the grid system of this planet is doing what it's supposed to be doing. And so, as you and I have talked about, this isn't done yet. This will be happening for a little while longer. But this order, this powerful group, they're here already, and they're doing their thing, and they're not necessarily needing the spotlight to do it. So, did that help?
Yes, and I think very few people want to talk about, let's say, the darker or shadow aspects of what's going on during this awakening. And as you're talking about how we're wielding this immense magic and remembering how to use it, there will be, let's say, temptations to use it and wield it in the wrong way. You called it naughtiness.
Yeah.
So I would love to just
being kind. Yeah.
Let's bring that to the surface, because even though it's a topic that some people might feel uncomfortable going into that darkness, I feel like it's important to illuminate that this is happening and this is going on, and how we can be aware of it, conscious, and use that magic and that power in the right direction throughout this age of miracles that we're going through.
Yeah. Okay. So here we go. Here we go. The reason why there in the last several weeks, maybe month, there have been events, political and otherwise, that have occurred that have made some people extraordinarily afraid and some people not afraid. Okay, it doesn't really matter. I don't look at either one and place any weight on that, other than just observing the totality of what is happening. Okay, so I'm going to step into a space, dude, that I have never stepped into before. Okay, so you're just doing this to me. Okay, this is why I need 5 months to recharge every time I talk to you, because you just get this out of me. All right, but no, in all seriousness, in a lot of what we have talked about, okay, and I don't mean you and me, but just in all the conversations that are out there, I find it fascinating. I know that if you look hard enough, you'll find it, okay? But I find it fascinating that we don't talk about the Christ consciousness energies right now, and more specifically, we don't talk about. Okay, I'm going to really be mindful for everybody that's listening here. I'm telling you right now, I'm channeling what I'm channeling, and I'm going to be very good at trying to use my filters, but I just have to call it what it is, okay? There is really very, unless you get into some of the maybe YouTube channels of hardcore Christianity, to talk about the Antichrist, okay? And that is a word that really is even hard for me to get into this kind of a discussion, because I mean, we're talking about, I want to try to pull all of these pieces together. You've had some fantastic guests on your show, and what I'm trying to do is put a sort of a covering over it to give you a perspective of how this all plays out in a game. Okay, just kind of filter that into your mind, that if this is a game, I'm putting this layer of mysticalness in there to explain how this all connects the dots with everything else. Up until now, and I write about this a little bit in my first book, but in the second book I talk about this more. I call this the alchemistic science of the mind. Okay, up until now, the game, the way it's been structured, has really given us a view of this type of energy as being, if not woo-woo, scary, and demonic and satanic, and all of the things that come along with the conceptions or misconceptions we have of our reality. A lot of that, almost all of what I just said, is 3D filters, okay? meaning that it's very surface level. We have to go beyond that to see what it really is. Okay. But nevertheless, some aspects of the mystery schools, let's call them the schools that kind of play in the alchemy of things. Most of the alchemy I'm talking about are rituals and things that some would have in some in some other language would have been. Here's kind of another word that people get uncomfortable with: paganistic. Okay. Because when you start talking about paganism, you start talking about some serious woo-woo stuff. But I'm trying to make the dots, connect the dots with everything that you have talked to, with everybody that you have met with in your interviews, okay? In that vein, there is this, when we start rising in consciousness to fourth level consciousness, 4D consciousness, and into the early stages of 5D consciousness, which 5D consciousness for people is when we start to integrate, come back to oneness, but also we also remember how to create, okay, as creators, whatever you want to call it, magicians, sorcerers, sages, whatever you want to call it, okay? I would call it divine intelligence as gods, okay? When we do that, okay, we step into the realms of, I'm going to isolate the divine feminine now, okay? The divine feminine, the one of the most extraordinary frequencies of that the divine feminine carries, because it is absolutely essential in the creation process of everything, this entire game, every narrative of the entire game, okay, is sensuality. Okay, and sensuality is the opposite of passion, which is a masculine energy. A divine masculine energy creates passion in a different way than the masculine energy that is running amok right now. Okay, this is a masculine energy that's completely lost it. Okay, completely. And I'm just I'm saying this from a very objective 50,000-foot view down, not from the bottom surface up, okay? Because I don't care what the circumstances are that are happening in the world right now, all right? It doesn't matter. I mean, it's all lining up perfectly to this point that every sacred document, every teaching of indigenous of its kind has pointed to this time, and we're in it now, and yet nobody sees it. Really, nobody's seeing it, okay? So the Antichrist, okay? It is not a person per se, okay? It's not. I feel that the ones who are listening to this show probably get that already, all right? If they've even entertained the conversation, okay? What it is it's an energy that has been distorted, if you will, intentionally, to give us the exact opposite of what it is that we're trying to see in the mirror about ourselves, okay? This energy is I call it a destruction energy, okay? It's the energy is a destroyer, okay? Very much tied to a very divine masculine energy. In the angelic realms, it is a very unique group of beings that carry this energy, okay, within that angelic order that I was telling you about. And their purpose is to destroy, okay? They take on the not so pleasant job of having to come here and literally, I'm going to be a little potty mouth here, so you might have to edit some of this, but they literally are here to knock the shit out of us, okay? To remember who we are, because that's how asleep, that's how much we are in this sort of state of amnesia, okay? But along the way, as we're going through this once upon a time story, we start to remember the powers that we have. It's literally no different than some of the stuff that we as kids growing up thought were just fantasy, like the Harry Potter stuff, like the Yoda and Star Wars, the Jedi stuff, the stuff that you use your mind to create all of this. This is the same type of energy, but when it is used, and it is, in a 3D way, the sensuality of the divine feminine can be very intoxicating. It can seduce, okay? Nothing wrong with that, okay? In that it is intentionally, it does that because as you get higher into the levels of consciousness, you become mystics. And so you use your hands and you use your mind and you use your consciousness to manipulate energy. I mean, I'm not telling anything that somebody like Dolores Cannon didn't talk about, okay? And this energy is a distraction in the game, but it's a very serious distraction, because if it is not respected as a energy of the game, not as some sort of supernatural woo-woo satanic thing, but if you're not aware of it, it can seduce people into this feeling of connectivity or knowingness or wanting to be part of something greater, and it can be damaging. It can hurt. It could play on people's consciousness. I don't want people to understand that this is not like the overriding energy. I'm just saying that in the realm of the divine feminine, sensuality is needed, because every energy in this game is made up of emotional frequencies, and those emotional frequencies have sensuality in it. It is what makes it, if you will, in the world of when we leave this life, when we go into the light, we go, it feels incredible. It's like I don't want to come back. That oddness is that sensuality of bringing everything back together into creation. Okay. But if used in like a crazy dystopian or utopic type of a fantasy type of a plot or narrative here, if you don't use it properly, it can be harmful. It can step into the spaces of black magic, and really, at this point, it doesn't matter whether people believe it or not. It is the phase of this game that we're stepping into. Those who are here walking the earth doing the crystallizations, they're extraordinarily high priests or priestesses, prophets, or whatever you would want to call them in other times, that are doing this, laying the foundation for humanity. But everyone who's going to cross into the higher levels of consciousness will have this experience to come through it. How do you come through it? Do you use those energies to seduce yourself into being stuck in 3D even more? Because you can do that. You can get, those are the addictions that we have to fear. Or we use them to become literally, I'm not saying figuratively, literally the sorcerers, priests, priestesses, divine intelligence gods that we are, because that's where we're at. We're at that point right now. And people like you that have seen and talked to other people, you see it on the daily. People are waking up and having these extraordinary callings and these extraordinary gifts, and people are going, well, what about me? That will happen. But you have to start. Most of those people that are having those callings and feelings and whatever, they either had it shoved in their face and they finally figured it out, or they had to go through a process of accepting the things that they were receiving. We're stepping into that point. Next year, I call it the year of the reveal. We're stepping into that point now, where the number of people who are going to have these remembrances of the divine feminine and all these other energies are going to get hit big time. And they're going to start asking the questions, what the hell is this really all about? And they're going to step into the world of mysticism. There is no avoiding it, because the divine feminine, if you desire to know what the divine feminine really is all about, then you better, brother, you better strap on, because you are about to go on a ride that you thought was only there for the special ones, only there for the ones who speak at these kind of interviews, and only they have the privileges. No, not at all. But again, if you're going to step into the divine feminine in particular, because of her extraordinary ability to change the landscape of everything that exists here, you're going to have to know how to play in those frequencies, and they are super, super, super powerful. But there's another part of this, if you don't mind. I know I'm rambling on a little bit, but just give me another moment here, because we're talking about the black magic stuff, okay? But in that also is another series of events that could also sort of activate people in a way that will put them in a little bit of a tailspin. A lot of what the divine feminine will do is flesh out lineage energy, okay? And this too can be extraordinary mystical. Oh, I could tell you stories about this, okay? But the key here is I look at these kind of things from a higher level. These are programs running in the game, in the simulation. Like for anybody who watched The Matrix, when Neo's in the white room with all the TV screens with the architect, okay? It's just a lot of stories running around trying to distract you. But nevertheless, it's still for the people that are experiencing them, they still need to figure out how to get that kind of energy out. The old days, that would have been called an exorcism, okay? But in this kind of day and age, it's just, for me, it's just the release of shamanic lineage energy that people carry. But here again, you're talking about mysticism, okay? You're not going to avoid that because that is the alchemy of the mind and the heart. And the heart. I mean, the mind, when I say the mind, I keep going like this, but what I mean is this, okay? I mean, the mind to me is all of consciousness. And it's going to be, the reveal again next year is that we're going to step into this. You're going to see a lot of wacky patackiness, what I call cuckoo for Cocoa Puff stuff out on the surface. You're going to see that. It has to happen this way because it's got to knock the shit out of us. It's a shock and awe kind of energy. This destruction energy is a shock and awe kind of energy to get people to stop looking at the world the way that they have been taught to believe, to tap into the frequencies of the divine feminine, child, and masculine, step into the worlds of the Holy Grail, step into the worlds of the mystical places. And I know that I'm telling you, I told you offline that this is something I was not prepared to talk to people about even a year ago, because there's a level of consciousness you have to get to in order to even begin to accept that something like that is possible. Well, I'm here to tell you it's extraordinarily possible. And I know that in your own personal life, you're starting to see how that's starting to shake into your own stream of consciousness in terms of who you believe you are. So I wanted to kind of give it all in a higher view, because I don't want there is a lot of naughtiness. This is potentially going to be a distraction. I can tell you that for a fact. People are going to step into this, get seduced by the energies of this, and at times fall into spaces that they're going to not be really happy that they did. But by and large, you're not here to fear this energy. You're here to master it, and because this is the frequencies of the divine feminine. I'm just talking about just one of them, but it's one of the most extraordinarily powerful ones, and it's also a very sensitive one because it gets into spaces of things that people have talked about in the past with cults and ritualistic things that seem like they're all satanic, but they are only in the sense that there is no such thing as Satan, but they are playing with black magic, because that is the 3D version of it. But we're here to experience the 5D version, which is what Yeshua and Buddha and others mastered. So yeah, that's kind of. I mean, this is happening behind the scenes kind of thing, but it's happening. I know about it very intimately. I know more than several of those that are traveling around the world right now as we speak, doing some really amazing things. And these were people that up until 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months ago, if you would have told them that they were doing this stuff, they would have laughed. And now they're doing this stuff because they believe that they are here to do something greater than themselves. And that's what I'm telling people. I'm telling people who are listening to shows like yours, it's no longer time for you to sit there on the sidelines and listen to everybody talk about these amazing things that are happening. If you're hearing these things, it's because you're supposed to be hearing these things. This is your story. Every incredible person that gets on your show and talks about pyramids and this and that and South America and all, the reason why you, the person who's listening to Emilio right now, is so drawn to these messages is, yeah, Emilio, amazing guy, right? Amazing dude, all right? But there's a reason for it. And that reason is starting to hit you harder and harder every single day, because the intensity of these energies, of the divine feminine energies and the Christ consciousness energies, are huge. And I didn't really get to explain, and I can if you'd like me to, but I never really got into the Antichrist energies and what those are all about, and how the Christ consciousness energy is really important here to provide the divine feminine all of the space it's going to need in order, and all of the energy it's going to need in order to revamp humanity. But I will tell you that is now happening, and people are going to. I told people a year ago, watch what happens at the end of 2024. I said it's going to get really nuts, because everything that is coming from underneath is going to start rising to the surface. Well, I don't know about you, brother, but I would say, oh, I'm going to let's go somewhere else here, because it is wacky pataki right now. It is wacky pataki right now. So you can see my level of sophistication when it comes to spiritual language. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, wacky pataki. I'm really kind of keeping it at the down low with all that stuff.
I love it.
So
I don't know if you saw, but a few minutes after I asked the question about the naughtiness, we blew out the Wi-Fi from my end. I don't know if you saw me leave the virtual studio.
You did, just for a few seconds, yes.
I left because the Wi-Fi cut out, and then I got back into the studio and it started recording again, but from zero. So I'm going to press pause right now.
Are you serious? Everything that we just talked about?
Gone. I don't think so. I'm going to pause, and we're going to see what happened behind the scenes, and then we'll start again. I'm just going to pause real quick. God. Beautiful family. Emilio here. I just wanted to take a quick moment to acknowledge what it really means for you to be here. What it means for you to be taking the time out of your day to tell the universe, this is what I value. This is what I want more of. I want to cultivate in my environment, in my space, in my mind, my heart, and my soul, conversations that will uplift me, that will raise my consciousness, that will raise my frequency, that will allow me to get to know more about myself and the world around me. That is why you're here. That is what I believe that we're doing here. And I will never be the type of person to tell you, subscribe now, do it, press the button. I do not want to be that person, but I do want to acknowledge that the size of the community, how we grow, is directly correlated to the people that we can attract on this show, the beautiful conversations that we can have, and also the resources that we can pour into making this a movement rather than just a podcast. And I need your help, and I need everyone else's help. I cannot do this alone. And from looking at our analytics, 45% of the people watching this are subscribed. That means 65% are not. And this is an invitation, because a subscription to a channel on this platform is telling the platform, this is what I want more of. Feed me more of this, because this interests me. This fills my soul. This nourishes me. This fills my mind. And I hope that we can continue doing that for you. If you made it up to this point in this video, that's why we're here. And it's a joy to be able to be doing this. This is my dream job right here. You guys are making it possible. So from my heart to yours, thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel, and thank you for being here. It's truly a blessing, and I can't wait to continue building and growing with you guys. We're just getting started. See you in the next one. So it seems like we did not lose everything that we just talked about, and we did some white magic in there to bring it back.
Oh, people don't know what we did off camera to get this baby back.
We lit up some sage, but I think we made it happen. And I think a beautiful segue on what you were talking about is then heading into the 5D energies of the Christ consciousness, and what the opposing force of this naughtiness is, and how we can begin to bring more of that into the timeline and into our personal lives as well.
So, okay. So, first of all, the way I want to tee this up is that I really, really desire for people to know that it isn't when the naughtiness energy isn't about any particular people. I mean, it could be. We could highlight some really interesting energies that are out there, but what I want to say is that there's no conspiracy to try to stop us from doing this. It's like, again, imagine that you're in a game and you've hit the highest level of that game, and that level of that game means that you have to become a real intelligent wizard. Okay, and I really use that intelligent wizard because this is intelligence. This is like way, like you and I talked about the artificial intelligence stuff. I mean, what a different conversation we're having, but it's all connected to it. Okay, and we're an intelligence, and we have to step into that frequency and own it. And I said to you already, if it was actually recorded, we won't know yet for a while. But I said the 2025 is the year where we have to step into our authenticity. And I'm going to tell you right now, for anybody who's still sitting there and wondering how is that going to look, am I the one that's going to be in that group? It's going to hit you right between the eyes. The shock and awe of 2025 is going to cause you to remember. It's kind of like back in the day. I don't know when back in the day, but I remember that back in the day, and it may still be used today, there is this practice in psychology or psychiatry or clinical psychology or whatever. When people had amnesia, they would shock them back into remembering. And again, I don't know if that's still being used or not, but on the spiritual level, I will tell you that that's exactly what is happening, is that we're getting shocked and awed in so many different ways. Okay. And so 2025 is going to be a continuous stream of that. And there is going to be, as people start to remember. Now, I'm not talking about the lower levels of remembering. I'm not talking about what I mean by, and I talk about this in the book, it's called the intuitive stage. Okay, the intuitive stage means that we start to feel into our intuition. We start to feel into maybe there's something there's something about the inner voice, the gut feelings that you have to feel into. That's the beginnings of all of that. Okay. But when you get into the awarenesses where you start to feel this energy of integration, what I mean by that, you start to feel telepathically like you're syncing with people in some way, shape, or form. Okay, you're starting to feel that you're syncing into the programming of the game. What do I mean by that? Say, for instance, one physical Earth day feels like it lasted 3 or 4 days or 5 days, but yet 1 week feels like it just went by, like not even a day, like it was like a half a day. When you start to feel into the syncing of all of these energies, integration wise, you are on a collision course into the realm of the divine feminine. And when you go into that realm, you have got to prepare yourself. This is the most extraordinary quest that you could ever dream of. Okay? Every single person that's listening to this show, okay, has dreamt somewhere, someplace, that they were here to do something greater. And that they didn't know what that meant, but they couldn't even begin to fathom the idea that they, of all the so-called billions of people, and I say so-called because we could talk about that too, okay, that they had the audacity to dream that they could actually be someone greater, that they were the ones that came here to do something to change all of it. And I'm telling you right now, the answer is yes. But with that comes a lot of responsibility. And that responsibility is that you are about to activate a series of codes in your genetic DNA, okay? Not just your physical DNA, but in your light body DNA. And when you do that, you're going to be stepping into spaces that you have never thought existed on this planet. There are dimensions or parallel realities within this space that are happening right now, but we don't know it. Oh, people have talked about the theory of that, but when you start raising your consciousness higher and higher and higher into the divine feminine energies, into the Christ consciousness energies, okay, you're going to start remembering these things. And when you start remembering them, you're going to feel them like you're going to be there juggling 5D with 3D. You're going to be like, this is where a lot of people have talked about how as they've moved, even just in the lower stages of 4D, they are starting to feel separated from everything. They're starting to feel like at one time, once upon a time, they felt like they were the ones that were outcast from this society. And now they're feeling like everybody else is the outcast of their world. And that can be confusing because you're juggling two aspects of consciousness that are transitioning into a higher level of 5D. What I said earlier about how you can't just show up to the party, you can't just show up to the party. You can't just say, oof, damn, ooh, baby, I made it. You can't do that and go, where's my prize? Let's go. Give me my prize, okay? The prize isn't going to be given to you that way. No great fantasy game does that, okay? You have to play the game as the hero of the game and know how to acquire those frequencies. In the process of doing that, even the slightest raise of your consciousness will expose you to these other energies, these energies that are not there to try to purposely or intentionally or I shouldn't say purposely or intentionally, they are there to do that, but they're not there to hurt you per se, okay? They're there, like, when you ever go to a haunted house, like the ones that are not real, there's the playful ones, and there's something that pops out of, someone that pops out of a closet or something. They're meant to scare the shit out of you, but they're not there to make this a long-term impactful thing where you stay in a tailspin and get stuck in 3D. They're trying to shock you into remembering. And these energies that I'm talking about, they will do that. Now, but here's where again the caution comes in. It works both ways. As you start to acquire those energies, you will start to have this ability to engage people and to start getting them to be lured into your energies, okay? And everybody's probably sitting here and going, what does this have to do with 25? In 25, we are going to start to be shown who we are, okay? It's going to be indirect, it's going to be direct, whatever you want to call it, but it's going to be shown this way, okay? You're going to see yourself for who you truly are. You're going to start to remember that you're not the person that you thought you were, and you're going to step into these energies. The best way to handle those energies is to accept that you are a divine intelligence, that you are playing a game, and that this game has just stepped it up to a higher level of mysticism. Because if you don't choose to play it that way, then guess what happens when you do try to play a game and you don't go by the rules? You don't get out of the game at all. So in any event, I just all of a sudden, remember I told you I couldn't hear you other than through here. So I plugged these into my power strip or my power outlet in my laptop, and it's telling me my juice is running out. So I don't know how long this is gonna go. Okay, but here's the point in terms of 2025. Okay, people are going to start remembering that they are not in this reality as people have told them to be. Okay, they are going to tap into the divine feminine. They're going to start owning that frequency. That's going to be primarily for women. Primarily, I really don't want to make this a gender thing, but initially it's going to be more of a woman thing because of the fact that the women are coded in a way for them to receive these energies faster. Okay, this will eventually become an all thing because we all carry this divine feminine equally. Okay, that's where the Christ consciousness energies come in. The Christ consciousness energies is a balance, a recognition of the balance between the divine masculine, feminine, and child. And the child cannot be overlooked here, because if people look at this world the way it is going, and they look at the things that even maybe the guests on your show are talking about, and they don't have a way in which to use filters to decipher it all, they'll get confused. And the way that you avoid that confusion is by simplifying it the way in which a child would simplify it. Okay, you must use the energies of the child. It is part of the trinity of the Holy Grail, which is part of the storylines that have to do with the Knights Templar and the Freemasons and the Essenes and the Gnostics and the Egyptians and Sumerians. It goes back to Persia and the Celtics and the deity of from the Far East. Everything revolves around this. But if you treat this on a surface level and you're sitting there going, what the hell is he talking about? You're not going to see it clearly, because you can't see the forest beyond the trees. Okay, you have to see it up here and go, okay, breathe. Let's start with, I am a divine entity playing the game and experiencing myself in different ways. Now let's figure out what the game is all about. Now let's master it. And to master it, you're going to step into the world of mysticism. There's no avoiding it. None. And for most people, that should be pretty cool, because all our lives we've always known that we had the ability to create magic. But we have to be extraordinarily responsible with it, because the ones that are listening to your show, I would venture to guess that the overwhelming majority of them are here to practice white magic, which is for the betterment of everything, for everything that has been talked about and written about in all the sacred documents, in every single ancient civilization that is now all of a sudden being discovered. This is why you're here. This is your time. 2025 is to reveal to you, the person who's listening to this show, that you are here to do something now for the betterment of humanity. And that is to remember, so that you can start using your abilities to do something good, not the abilities of the human kind, the abilities of the spiritual kind. This is what all of the great teachings from way back talked about, even Christianity, Judaism, all of them, Hinduism. They talked about the power of this magic that is here, but that got disguised, and then it became withered down into whatever we wanted to call it here in this Western societal type of analytical mindedness that we have now with this world. This is your story. But I'm doing it so that everybody hears it, so that everybody who else is supposed to hear it will also hear it as well. But this is your story, Emilio. I'm talking about this because it's what you have to remember. Okay? And since I don't know what the hell is going to happen after we say goodbye, I always have to make sure that I give you what I can, because any good wizard or whatever will sit there and go, here's what you need for the next part of your quest. Okay? And then you got to go and do your shit. Okay? All right?
Yeah. You know what's interesting, regarding that, like all of the guests that you've told me that have come on, including yourself, are putting puzzle pieces together in my own story. And really, I don't see my role as an interviewer to be able to share a lot of personal stuff, but I will make an exception because I had a crazy dream last night. And I think it's connected to our conversation. So I'll share what happened very briefly. It's interesting because the last time we were here, we started talking about the genetic resequencing. And last night I had a dream, or maybe it wasn't a dream, but something crazy happened. I was around, it might have been like 4 a.m. I was in a very lucid, very like astral dream where, and I don't get a lot of these too often, but I'm with a group of people. I don't remember who I was with at the time, but essentially we were here on Earth, and this like huge mothership came on, and we were all watching it, and it was huge, like a massive mothership. and it had the ability to pop in and out of reality. Like it would disappear and then come back. And then as the dream progressed, I found myself inside of this ship, and I was met with what I would probably guess were the Greys, and I saw them. And there was they did a series of sequencing on me, where while I was in my bed, I was like in a state of like shaking, and I couldn't make it stop. And I didn't, I knew that something was going on around my genetics, and I just was going to let it flow. I think after the third time that happened, I kind of just said, okay, stop. Like, we're good. I'm good now. And then I woke up, and I literally felt that they were in my room. I literally felt they were there with me. And I wanted to share this with you because I feel like it's very connected to our conversation. I feel like it's connected to maybe some other people's experiences that have had this, and wanted to hear your perspective on what that was.
Remember, again, I'm going to keep saying this, and anytime you're going to get me on this show, I'm going to just keep saying it. I have to keep reminding people that look at this as a game. Okay, look at all of this as a game where you are having these extraordinary events going on in order to help you to remember. So with regard, and there are people, many people, Emilio, who experience what you're saying. And this is where I was getting at in general, that in 2024, the reveal isn't just about something that's going to hit you right between the eyes. You might have a series of dreams where you all of a sudden are feeling like you're being engaged with extraterrestrials or the paranormal or the angelics or whatever else it is that is triggering that remembrance. But for some people, for many people, they are having this experience, this sensation that they are being worked on by some type of, let's call it, I'm going to keep using 3D words, certain sort of alien group. Okay, all of those aliens are the world that we come from. All of the world that we come from are known as dimensionals. Okay, they're going through the cycle of evolving into the highest forms of godliness. Okay, and so in the ninth dimension, again, this is like what I'm telling you. You got to look at all the puzzle pieces from every single angle possible. Okay, because we were just talking about black magic. Okay, and now we're talking about dimensionals and aliens. Okay,
aliens.
Okay, I mean there's exactly.
Doesn't get more out there than that. Like, let's go.
You have to look at the correlations of what is happening here. What this is, again, gets back to the fundamental premise. When you ask how do you deal with this thing that's happening, you got to accept the fundamental premises that you are playing in a game. Okay, and I go through in the things that I teach my students, I go through the ins and outs of all of that so they can have a better, kind of like Yoda did, kind of get better understanding of how do you master all that. But in the greater sense of it all, what is happening to you, okay, is that, and this gets back to things that you and I were talking about offline, which was to say that your story, and I won't get into all the specifics, but your story is a much greater story than one that you even know you're playing right now in. This is just a step to something more. And what is happening with those who are here to help the planet to move to this next step in evolution, the golden age, that age of high 5D, low 6D frequencies where you get heaven on earth, okay? You are still doing this in a game where in the game you have to use these avatar bodies for now, okay? And what you're doing in the process of what I was telling you about all of these mystical people that are going around the world putting crystals down and crystallizing the grid system of the planet and of our bodies, is that crystalline process is the evolutionary cycle to our bodies, to our physical bodies and our light bodies. It's the light bodies first and then the physical bodies, okay? The physical body cannot transform itself without its compatibility to the light light body. The light body has to be the one that sets the pace for all of this to happen. But what you are describing is that you are literally the astronaut here, okay? You are literally coming into this game at a level at which you are blazing the trail, so to speak, for not just everybody's remembering, but for yours. Okay, remember I told you before we got on that maybe it's part of this interview, that we are now at a point in this game, in this Earth School, that we have covered everything that we have already done. We are literally at the event horizon, past the event horizon of what we are now doing. This is the unknown. We are stepping into a level of the game that has never been played before, which is this last level that is required. And by the way, it's not going to be thousands of years or hundreds of years. It's really going to happen like really fast, okay? Lickety split fast. Okay, we're at those levels now where you have to understand it. And so your body, your light body, and your biological body are constantly being upgraded and are constantly being reviewed and are constantly being tweaked by the dimensionals in a space that would feel like you're in a lab or room or something, because you are your avatar and your light body are going through massive resequencing right now. And the body has never, remember what I just said, never have we gone this far as an Earth School. So they are constantly making sure that this next phase is going to do what it's supposed to do, because this is the biggie. This is where everything finally ends and we all could go home, or those that are here to stay, I stay. We are literally the astronauts that are going and getting our Earth School suits and light bodies adjusted and calibrated, because it's imperative that if it works, it has to work for you, because you're blazing the trail. It has to do for me, so that when we blaze the trail, those adjustments can be made to everybody else as they're going through their ascension process into 5D. And the dimensionals are responsible for that. They are the ones that are responsible for making sure that your Earth School Earth body, your vessel, your avatar, and your light body are all being synchronized exactly the way they're supposed to receive these energies of the divine feminine and beyond. The Egyptians and others were really very aware. I always highlight the Egyptians, but Tupis, Persians, Sumerians, the ancients of all types of schools knew about this sequencing. And it's happening right now, and that's what you experience. You had to see this dream. It was not a dream. I will tell you right now, it was not a dream. Okay, you were consciously transporting yourself into that space where you got to see what happens when you are asleep. This is what happens a lot of times, is that you're actually being upgraded by beings that are light beings from a higher dimension.
Wild.
And why I'm telling you all of this,
Franco.
why I'm telling you all this is because this is the story. This is what I want to try to get people who are listening to the show. You can sit there and get engulfed in the fear of what is about to happen, because it will provide a lot of fear, a lot of it. Okay, and I'm not talking about just the macro level stuff. I'm talking about the stuff that we ourselves personally are going through. Okay, all the twists and turns of waking up and remembering and being disconnected with others, and what does that mean? And what happens to my family? What happens to me? I'm all alone. I feel scared. I'm having these wild dreams. I'm having all of these things coming online. We are coming online. Okay, this is what 2025 is. We are coming online. All right. And if you can accept it from a higher level of what you are capable of doing here, you will master this game, and you will be part of what I tell people in the book. I wrote about this. It was actually something that was given to me by Caleb. Okay. The people who are here right now, the ones that are doing this, the ones that are traveling all over the world, the ones who are making the consciousness effort to remember, the ones who are waking up to these dreams, these events in their lives, all of these supernatural things that are happening to them. One day, in the not too distant future, one day they will be remembered as the children of the light. Okay, the children of the light, because they had the audacity to dream that they could be more. And that audacity took them down the unknown. And this is where we are in the game, the unknown. All right. If you look at it that way, it is the most amazing, amazing opportunity for humanity and for those specifically who are here to remember to do just that and to come out of their shells. Once upon a time, I had a vision, and I was told by the collective that this would be the day when those who were quiet, the ones who sat on the sidelines wondering if they were worthy of anything, much less do what I'm talking about, that this would be the day when those people would actually rise up and have their voices heard, because they would be the ones that would be able to give the greatest contribution to humanity. This is happening right now. It doesn't look like it on the surface. And the thing is that you have a choice. Choose to be in the fear, or choose to accept who you might actually be and see what the magic that comes with it will allow you to do. It is extraordinary. It is now it. The last couple of weeks when things were really going nuts with all the events here in this country with the politics and everything, the one thing I woke up the next morning, the very first thing I did when I woke up the next morning, I just said, it has begun. It has begun. I didn't even look at the news or anything. I didn't know what was really happening. But it wasn't just the political landscape. That was just one of the tipping things of many things that have tipped humanity into this last stage of what I've been talking about since the beginning, the timelines. The timelines are all consistent. In fact, if anything, they're shortening now. It has begun. Everything happens in a cycle of threes, okay? And we have begun that cycle now. So that means that in the next 3 years, everything is going to be as crazy as it's ever been. And people go, well, yeah, you say that every year. No, take a look at what we said a year or two ago, or 3 or 4 years ago. We were talking about this day coming maybe 100 years from now. Maybe, if somebody was gutsy enough to say it. Now we're saying it's here. It's here. And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to tell people, the clock has started, people. It has started. And we're in the 3-year time period. And that means that all of the things that everything was promised to you is going to happen if you step up and are willing to step into the unknown with your faith. That's why I reached out to you and said, Emilio, I got to tell this kind of stuff, because there's a lot of good stuff, a lot of great people doing a lot of interesting stuff, finding all these civilizations that existed, all these clues. This is a scavenger hunt. And it's not just for a few people to discover it. Every single one has a piece of the clue in them. And that gets into the frequencies of the divine feminine, the 13 and the others that are coming out through all of these other frequencies, the Kuan Yangs and the Hathors and the Isis and the Mayas. And this is a huge time for humanity, for the femininity of this planet, which will first be through women. They have to reclaim that. Because the divine masculine, or more to be more precise, the Christ consciousness, okay, the energies that are more specifically aligned with the coding right now of the men in this planet, they're here to ground that energy, to help the divine feminine do its thing, not to create a new revolution of consciousness, but an extraordinary evolution of consciousness. Evolution, not revolution. The days of suppression and victimhood had to happen in order to remind us of who we are. But now we're here. And what do we do with it? Do we sit here and start feeding into the fear of everything? Or do we stand here and do what we were supposed to do or been told we were going to do thousands of years ago? This is the time now. And whether you step up or anyone else steps up, it's going to happen. It's just a question of whether it's going to be painful or not so painful. Okay? Because there is no doubt that the earth, the school that we talk about, the earth, is splitting now. And the very first tether of that split is about to be achieved here at the end of this year. How many tethers are there? I don't know, but I will tell you that there are enough that it's going to be at least 3 years. Not at least, 3 years. It's a big time. It's a big time. Everything that has been foretold about the Antichrist or energies of that kind are here. And then we have to decide, are we going to keep looking up at the sky and see whether something's going to save us, or are we going to finally do like what Rumi said and start looking inside, because that which you have been seeking has been seeking you. We're all capable of this. And I can't sit by anymore and just try to give it a nice, playful little clues or riddles or whatever. I'm being really sincere. This is an extraordinary time in human history. The way this planet is going on 3D, by the way, for anybody who wants to know this, 3D was never here to be fixed. It can't be fixed. It's a program that was supposed to do what it was supposed to do, and that's to get us to this point of remembering. It's going to end that way. There is another world that is there, 5D. You have to cross through 4D to get there. And that's the awareness part and the accepting of who you are. And if you can't accept it, that's all right. There will be others who will do it anyway, and they will cross over that line and take you with them. But for those who feel that this is the time that they've been waiting for in their lives to do something, do it. Feel into yourself and know who you are. You are God's. Accept it and play with it. Because right now, whether you do it or not, this game is going to end. And it's ending right now. And it's not the pleasant thing you thought was going to happen. It can be. It will be. But this 3D version is going to end exactly the way it was told it would end. It is not sustainable what we are doing in this 3D world. It is not sustainable. I don't care. I'm not talking politics. I'm not talking environmental, ecological, whatever. I'm just telling you, dude, that it's not sustainable. We are running amok on this planet like viruses, and there are reasons for why viruses do what they do, and there are reasons why viruses don't stick around too much longer after they destroyed everything. Okay? Just the way it is. I'm not trying to do doom and gloom. I'm trying to tell people this is your time to step up. You can do this to remember who you are. All the great teachers that walked this planet said this. It was time. This is the time. 2025 is going to reveal to people who they are. Whether or not they accept the call is entirely up to them.
What is the prize of going through this awakening process from the darkest depths to the greatness that we
So this is where I don't know if I'm going to have enough batteries. I got 24 minutes according to the old battery space thing. Okay. All right. We're good. We're good. All right.
We're good.
The greatest prize
in Colombian time, that's like an hour. So.
I was gonna say it was like we're here. I'm staying over tonight with 24 minutes, man. I mean we have no concept of time. All right. The greatest prize is the one that has been told to us since the beginning. The greatest prize is to know. Isn't it enough to know? Isn't it enough to know that all this time you've been playing a game where you've been told that you are absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of life? Okay? And to know that in the actual scheme of life, you are the exact opposite of it. Isn't it? Do you need to die to do that? Because that's how it happens these days, right? The near-death experiencers go into that process and they touch their truth and they come back. And they come back and tell the story over and over and over and over again. And nobody seems to want to understand it further than that. They tell the story of how there is more to us than what we are being told. But we are right now too consumed with just the simple narrative of what exists outside of this world. But I am telling you that we are here right now to experience that awareness here. Because if we can understand who we are within a game that completely turned everything off in our memory, if you want to call it that, in our consciousness, and made us, on top of that, remember who we are through the most extraordinary set of contrast and duality concepts that you could ever possibly imagine, okay? To go through all these riddles and games of finding what ancients have been trying to tell us for years and how to use that energy to remember. Everything is being laid out for us to remember. Everything. Okay, to remember that we created worlds. Isn't that enough? I would think that would be like the grand prize. But if that's not enough, for those of us who are here and are here helping humanity to do this, and there are a lot, They outnumber those that are actually here trying to ascend, okay, to the 5th dimension by a lot, okay, because it takes a lot to run this production, all right? All right? For those people, they get to go home. To go home. Like I talked about before, you said, what was the greatest thing that I've experienced so far in the last interview? I said, the ability to know how to access stargates within our bodies in order for us to go home. The very same stargates that are there right in our faces in the pyramids, but even some of the greatest explorers can't see it because they don't know the language yet. That is the greatest prize. And if those who do stay back get to experience what everybody's talked about, they're in all of these books about heaven on earth, to experience that, that's the grand prize. We are literally at the cusp of all that. I mean, literally, and people, how the hell is that possible? Because I already told you, you are not here to change the 3D world. The 3D world is what it is, and it's full of a lot of clues to help you to ascend out of here. But you're not here to change that. You're here to remember who you are so that you can master those frequencies of who you are. Because when you do that, you remember. When you remember, like when you're having a dream, when you're, like you say, you were very lucid, right? The more lucid you are, the more you realize you're in a dream. The more you realize the dream, you realize this is an illusion or somebody else's delusion, okay? And when you do that, what do? You don't go jump back into the dream. You say, oh shit, woo, that was a hell of a game. Wow, I need a vacay. All right, let's go. Let's go. Let's get the party going, right? But I don't want to be in another game like this for a while. Okay? That's what you do this for. It is the most extraordinary experience of growth you can have as a God, is to experience a consciousness you have yet known, because you're creating it now. This is why it's all the unknown, because we were literally creating a whole series of consciousness that never existed before. It exists because we've gone to the deepest realms of forgetfulness to try to remember who we are. And in doing that, we created fantasy worlds beyond our wildest dreams. They're all stored in the Akashic record of the field of the matrix. We're creating and churning out worlds that we could never have done. But it's time now, like every good school, it's time to finish it. And we're there. And 2025 is going to be that year of reveal. Is that going to mean UFOs all over? No. It will for some people. There'll be a heck of a lot of people that are going to get a lot more comfortable and close to UFOs and ETs and to their dimensionals and to their archangels and everybody else that's communicating with them. It means that for those who are here and are starting to remember, and there will be a lot, you can't just push it under the rug anymore. It won't let you. That's a calling, and a calling is very strong. And when it calls, you do it. And there are a lot of people right now running around the world doing what they are being called to do, and they have no earthly idea. And a year ago, they would have never thought they were worthy enough to be it. But now they're realizing who they are, and that they're an extraordinary divine intelligence, a being, a God, a high priestess or priest. It all comes together like one big freaking game of Clue. Okay? All right.
Oh my God, brother. You are fired up today. You are fired up today. You're like, you took Let's Go times 10 today. You took too many Let Go's for breakfast, like, here, bro.
Strap me in, man. Let's go. I got to go far. But look what's happened. Our communications have gone nutty. Our batteries are dying out. Your Wi-Fi is going out. You don't know if you're finishing up this interview with me. That's the kind of energy we're bringing into this world, and we are going to be extraordinarily good at it. But we have to accept who we are, the unknown.
The unknown.
The unknown.
And as you know, we end every show with a segment called The Final Trio, which we'll try to get through if we can with the battery situation. We're in the unknown. Okay. We're in the void. We'll see where we take it. But before that, briefly, where would you send people to connect with you and your work, the beautiful courses that you're putting out to the world? You have a new website going in there. I saw it. It looks beautiful. There's a few images in there that'll spark some remembering for people. I'll share just one of them. I'll put it on the screen, and people can just decipher what that means for them.
That would be that's for another conversation, and I want to have that one too because it all connects to everything here. But where they can find me with my new site is francoromero.com. And I built this with so much intentionality around it to start to allow people to step into frequencies and energies of magic, not even mysticism, but of just magic, so they can really, really feel into a vibe, a coding activation that they wouldn't have had before. And with that, there are courses in there that I literally 25 hours worth of coursework that I did to give to humanity with so much activation coding in it. I cannot even begin to tell you. Okay. And people are saying that they're being activated to remember in so many different ways as a result of that. There's a playground or a community that I've built around it to protect not just the sanctity, if you will, of the courses, but really to give people a space where they can be safe. Because there are a lot of people that are remembering, and they're trying to share this with people who don't understand any of this stuff, and they're being labeled outcasts in different ways. And this is a place where all like-minded beings can be, and that community is called the Inner Divine Playground. And so you can, I believe, I'll give you the links to it, but it's playground.francoromero.com, and just check that out. But the courses are the key. All of the courses, I'm not saying this to promote my courses, but I'm saying everything I threw in is there, and the kitchen sink included. Everything that I threw in those courses, I gave to humanity because they were the initiation process that I went through. If people sit here and go, how the hell does he know all this stuff? It's because of the same initiation, if you want to call it that, process of remembering that these courses will provide. So ideally, I would love to see people jump on those, because what a way to start 2025 by starting to be activated through those courses and those codes. So thank you for letting me share that.
Beautiful. We'll include all of that in the links in the show notes below. For the final trio, we started off with a let's go, but
yes.
I wanted to ask you, what is something that humanity is learning to let go this year, 2025?
Fear. That's not going to be an easy one, but they're going to have to. It's the only way they're going to remember that behind fear is the truth of who they are. So that will be fear. They're going to kick and scream about it, but that's going to be, it's an addiction that we all have to fear. Okay, that's good. What's the next one?
Second question is, how would the world look like if we all saw it through the eyes of a child?
Peaceful, loving, caring, oneness, joy, innocent, curiosity, magical, fantasy, expansion, limitlessness, oneness, the likes of which we tap into each other and can feel each other as if we've actually lived their lives. I mean, yeah, all of that and more and more.
Beautiful. And to end, I wanted to ask you to describe the energy behind becoming a modern day alchemist.
I already summed it up, but I'll tell it to you again. Magic. Magic really does exist. It really does. I cannot stress that enough. Magic. But with that magic, there's all sorts of other energies. The divine feminine, with all of her beautiful, when I say her, I'll genderize it, but with her energies, it's incredible. Divine feminine and divine masculine, with what it does to ground those energies for the divine feminine. It's so amazing what it feels like to be a true feline or a wolf energy, where you can feel how it is to protect something you dearly love, but not in a way that is done in this world by attack. But in other words, not that way, but by preservation. Okay. What was the question again? Oh, the modern day alchemist.
Modern day alchemist.
I'm telling you to step into your authenticity. It is the most rushing feeling to wake up every morning and know that this day is full of magic and mysticism that I am creating. And I'm still just tapping into the beginnings of it. It is an insane, beautiful, pure energy that it almost feels like a cool breeze that comes through your back on a cold winter's day, and it sends you to chills that just makes you go, okay? If I could just, if I could express it in sound, it would be, okay? In the worlds that we come from, that's what it feels like. It's extraordinarily beautiful, beyond our wildest dreams. Limitlessness would be the word, and an extraordinary case of awareness and love and ecstasy and joy. That's what it is to be a modern day alchemist. And when my book comes out, ideally, people will be able to tap into that and start running with it.
We're going to create something called the Let's Go Club. So for people that made it up to here and really dove deep with us, comment below, let's go. And let's fill this comment section with all that magic, that love that you're talking about, because I know how many people are going to resonate with your truth, because you can tell the truth by the way that it feels. And the way that I've felt since the moment we got on screen have been chills throughout this whole conversation. And energy doesn't lie. So I just wanted to take some time to appreciate you for being so authentic, for being the alchemist that you are, for bringing us this world of magic that we are all going to start tapping into. It's such a gift to be able to share with you, paisano, hermano. You got to come out back to Colombia. When are you going to visit me?
Okay, give me about a couple hours. I'll get on the next flight, all right? But I will. I got to go back to my homeland. I got to meet up with you, brother. And I know that we're going to be talking a lot more in the months ahead, because there's much, much more we need to cover together. So, all right? And somehow, some way, I just got notification. I have like brother. 5 minutes left in my battery, so it turned out to be perfect. So, thank you. Thank you.
Perfection.
All right. We'll talk soon then.
Thank you.